All right, what a special treat this is. Not one person joining me, but two, and two people you know very, very well. They are partnering up with Bud Light for something very, very exciting, which, if you're a UFC fan, you should probably pay attention to this. So let's say hello first to the former interim UFC lightweight champion, one of the most exciting fighters to ever compete inside the octagon. We saw him compete in his retirement fight in July at UFC 318 in an incredible battle with Max Holloway. He is the Diamond, Dustin Poirier. Dustin, how are you, sir?
What's up, brother? Doing good, man. Thanks for having me on.
And it's time to introduce the legendary voice of the octagon, the best dressed man in the history of combat sports. Ladies and gentlemen, Bruce Buffer. Bruce, good to
Thank-
see you again. How are you?
I'm good, Mike. I have an introduction like that. I'm even better. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So this is exciting stuff. You guys are teaming up for a new commercial called Call Center, where you guys are covering a shift for fans in exchange for some Bud Light. I think that's a great premise. And we'll touch on more from this in a moment. But Bruce, I want to start with you because first, congratulations on this new partnership with Bud Light. What did that mean to you? And what does teaming up with Dustin for this particular thing mean to you as well?
Well, it means a lot to me. I mean, I've been mentioning Bud Light's name and roaring their name in the octagon for years, and I've enjoyed Bud Light and been a fan of drinking Bud Light for years. So it's kind of like kismet that it all came together, that I became a spokesperson or the voice of Bud Light, as some people like to say. And it makes it even more exciting. I'm sharing the dais with, one of the greatest fighters to ever enter the octagon, putting his blood, sweat, and tears on the line every night for our entertainment. Dustin Poirier. I mean, I couldn't ask for more. It's all good.
And what was it like working with Bruce, Dustin? Like, he's introduced you in so many big spots. He's been part of your career for so long. And now you guys get to have a little bit of fun with Bud Light. What was it like working with Bruce on this?
Nah, it's been great, man. But usually it's a different change of emotions. Usually it's so serious and everything's on the line. This is filming with people laughing, retakes. There's no retakes or do-overs in the other side when I'm around Bruce. So it was just a lot more fun, a lot more relaxing than the normal work I would do with Bruce.
On top of this, you guys have something else going on, sort of an extension of this. It's called Fight Night PTO, paid time at the octagon. And Bruce, I know what this is. The viewers don't. Walk us through what Fight Night PTO is and what it could mean for UFC fans.
Well, the call center commercial comes out next week. The PTO ability to call in the PTO, calling 1-800 Bud Light to get your chance to win UFC tickets to UFC 322 in New York. I mean, who doesn't want to have the best seats in the house? Who doesn't want to be at one of the biggest events of the year, which New York, Madison Square Garden always is? And Bud Light's offering the chance to all the fans and people that love drinking Bud Light to have that experience. Not just to be there at the octagon, but to meet some of their favorite people while they're there and have a complete VIP experience, which costs thousands of dollars. And here's their chance to get it for free just by dialing, 1-800 Bud Light. And then you'll hear everything prompted to you when you make that call and do what you have to do to get your chance to win. So it's for fans 21 and older, and can't wait to meet whoever the lucky people are, because they're very lucky if they win.
Dustin, I mean, UFC 322, we got JDM versus Islam Makhachev, Valentina Shevchenko versus Zhang Weili, a couple of super fights and much more at the Mecca, Madison Square Garden, a place you have competed at. What an opportunity this could be for UFC fans, is it not?
Yeah, of course it is. And this is a place that was on my bucket list for fighting my whole career. The greats fought there before me. So much history in that arena. And for the fans to take part of this competition where they call in, give their information and sit cage side, and one of the craziest arenas, the energy in there is nuts. And it's just a fun opportunity to be part of.
So again, 1-800 Bud Light is the number to call. This will be going on through October 30th. So do not hesitate on this. Get your calls in. Be creative with this, with your PTO requests. And perhaps you could be at Madison Square Garden. We'll touch on more of that in a second. So make sure you're on the lookout for that. But Bruce, I wanted to ask you something since Dustin is here, because you have announced so many fighters, so many big moments, big fight feels galore. But to introduce Dustin for the last time in New Orleans like that, the emotion in the air, the fans are going crazy. To, I guess, put us in your shoes for a moment. What are the emotions like for you to introduce Dustin for the final time?
Well, it's a good question. And the best answer I can give is that I'm a fan first and an announcer second. And Dustin Poirier is one of my favorite fighters. I like him both as a fighter, and I like him and love him as a human being. You know, inside the octagon, outside the octagon, he's one of the greatest role models that the UFC and the sport of MMA has ever had. And with his family, who I've met his entire family, they're wonderful. Had a chance to break bread with him one time. I think we were in the airport, Dustin, if I'm not
Yeah, yeah,
mistaken.
yeah.
And it's like, you know, people have to understand that, you know, I'm not just doing a job, but this is, as I say, an adventure, but it's an experience for me because I feel so close and I have emotion for all the fighters that I introduce, and, you know, some much more than others, of which Dustin is one of them. And knowing that that was his last fight, his family's there, his fans are watching, the long, glorious career, all the action, everything he's given the fans, as I always say, is blood, sweat, and tears. Um, I feel for him. And I know it's a grand moment for him. Win or lose, it's a grand moment for him. So I want to give every ounce of passion, every ounce of energy, every ounce of lung power I have to make that moment enhanced even higher than what he's already feeling at that time. But people don't realize sometimes when I'm announcing a winner or announcing them going in, I actually have experienced tears in my eyes, you know, emotions during that time because, and I can honestly say, Dustin, I had that with you, you know. It's a big moment. I mean, we're brothers, whether we spend and break time and break bread together week after week, but every year, the one or two times or whatever we step into that octagon together, we're brothers experiencing the greatest moment we each of us have ever had and can have in our lives. And thank you for allowing me to experience that with you.
Thank you, man. It definitely is an experience every time. And then more so that one in Louisiana, you can
Yeah.
feel the energy, the love, the people came and it was crazy, man. I couldn't even hear the bell in the second round. It was, and the fact that whenever the post fight video started playing with me laying the gloves down, I don't think a single person in that arena left. You know, usually when the last bell of the night rings, people are rushing to their cars so they don't get caught in traffic. It's a fight to get out.
Right.
Everybody stayed in the arena and cheered me as I walked out of that octagon. I mean, I just truly thankful and felt the love from the fans. Not only the fans, I felt love from the company and the people behind the scenes at the UFC. I couldn't ask for more. It was an incredible night that I'm never going to forget.
And you deserved every bit of it. And I think poetically it went perfectly.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I think poetic is actually like the perfect word to describe that night, Dustin, because the UFC built this event around you. And like you said, they did such a great job. I love the video they played during the prelims with messages from your family. It's just incredible stuff. I'm not going to lie to America and the world. A couple of tears were flowing down. I just can't lie to you. But recently, you know, you were talking to fans on Twitter. You talked about how much you miss fighting. But there is one tweet that really stood out responding to a fan who asked how much you miss it. And you said, let me pull this up real quick. Quote, every day, the moment my eyes open, I've done it for 2 decades, dedicated my life to it. A part of me has died. Can you expound on that a bit? And is retiring harder for you than you thought it would be?
Yeah, it's harder than I thought it would be. You know, I thought it would be a relief. Like when I finally put the gloves down and I don't have this weight on my back or this cloud over my head of getting better or what's next. There's another fighter training to compete against me. That's been that like that in my mind for 20 years. I thought it would be a relief and an exhale and life would begin in a different way. But it kind of hasn't yet. Maybe I'm still processing, you know, maybe it's going to take more time than I expected. But when you do something for this long and dedicate your life to it, every day I was waking up with a fire under me, trying to be a better fighter, get in better shape, learn new tricks, ask questions. It was a journey of, you know, I was finding out a lot about myself, but finding it out through martial arts. And then one day you wake up and it's just not there, but the fire's still there, you know, but the fact that I'm not going to get to do this again and anytime I've ever lost in my career, I've always righted the ship. I've always put things back in the right direction. And now walking away from this, I know that was it. Like I don't get a chance to right this ship anymore. I don't get a chance to put my hands in the air again. It's just I miss it more than I thought I would. And I'm still processing it all. I think day by day, time heals all, but I'm just hoping I get into a better flow. I've been just really trying to keep my mind busy, staying busy doing things so I don't have time to sit around. But God, I got to tell you, man, the days are long. The days are long when I'm not waking up, training, coming home, training again, doing road work, you know, just it's a way of life. It's not just a sport I competed in. It was the way I lived my life. And and I'm still processing.
Yeah, it seems like short term it's tough, but long term you seem content with the decision. I am curious after reading those tweets, is there anything that could get you back in for one more? Like the White House card, that is a one of one significant event that I'm sure you've seen the renderings. It looks absolutely bananas. Could that do it, or there's nothing, no chance?
I mean, my wife and my family really doesn't want me to continue fighting. And, the way that last fight was obviously premeditated. We had the time to set things up and do these videos and display parts of my career that people might have forgot about, or when I was a younger fighter, showing the clips to the audience and stuff. Like, how could I ever, and it was at home in Louisiana, how could I ever do that again? It's like, it was such a perfect send off. I'd be doing myself a disservice by coming back, but I would never say never, but it would take the perfect circumstances and everything for me to ever put a pair of gloves back on and fight somebody.
Fair enough. And Bruce, speaking of big fights, you got a lot of title fights to get ready for, don't you? 6 of them, as a matter of fact, including the return of Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane at UFC 321. And you said you're a fan first, so I wanted to ask you this because there's this narrative that is going around heading into this fight that Tom Aspinall may have more pressure on him than maybe any fighter we have seen in a long, long time. Now that he has the actual belt and the John Jones saga seems to be behind him for now. Do you agree with that theory?
Well, pressure is all how you handle it. And, there's many fighters you can see when they're feeling the pressure. But in Tom Aspinall, he's, like Dustin, he's one of the coolest cats you'll see. I mean, it's like nothing seems to rock him. He's very cool in his delivery. He's very cool in his interviews. I've never seen him get flustered. And I think he's going to prepare for, this monster in Cyril Gane, like he's prepared for everybody else, that this is another man across the octagon from him. Made of human flesh and heart and everything else that goes with it. And he's just going to go in and do what he does best, which is fight. Tom Aspinall is the kind of man that you just tell him he's fighting King Kong on Saturday or John Jones on Tuesday, and he's going to go in and he's going to fight. He's just always ready and probably ready to fight 365 days a year. He's a warrior with true warrior spirit, just like the man we're sharing with right now, Dustin Poirier. I think Dustin understands what I'm saying better than anybody.
I think he does. Sure. And yeah, you're a guy who gave Islam Makhachev one of the toughest fights of his career last June at UFC 302. And now that man is moving up for a new challenge, fighting Della Maddalena for the welterweight belt at UFC 322, which, by the way, 1-800 Bud Light till October 30th. You might be able to see that fight live, but I'm curious, Dustin, what are your thoughts on that fight and Islam Makhachev's chances to become a 2-division champion?
I'm excited for him. He's made history. He's trying to continue making history. I'm going to be there in attendance with Bud Light for that event at Madison Square Garden. So excited to see that one in person. But to pick a fighter in this one, I think both guys are great at certain things. It's going to all come down to the takedown defense of JDM. If he can get back up to his feet, if he can use the fence or stay off the fence, use his boxing, I think he definitely could give Islam a lot of troubles in the center of the octagon. He's a great striker. He's big and powerful. But a lot of times we think of a lightweight going up to welterweight. It's a 15-pound weight difference, but Islam is not a small man. He's not short. He's, I don't know, maybe he's 5'11". He's big. He's a big guy. It's not like he's having to put on years of muscle to make this leap to the next weight class. He's a guy who's been holding his body back from naturally being bigger like it wants to be so he can compete at a lightweight division. He's going to fill into this weight class, and he's not going to look like a lightweight going up to a welterweight. He's going to look like a solid welterweight in a title fight. But it's going to come down to his ability to get takedowns and hold JDM down. If JDM can get back up over and over and scramble, I think he's going to give Islam a lot of problems with the exchanges of boxing.
Last fight question I want to ask you guys. The big talk right now is who Ilia Topuria is going to fight next. It's a very hot topic right now. And Arman Sarukian's the number one guy, but he's booked to fight Dan Hooker. And then you got Paddy Pimblett. And then there's Justin Gaethje, who's vying for that spot. So, Bruce, putting you on the spot, and I know, like I said, you're a fan here. If the UFC called you right now and said, hey, Bruce, who do you want to see Ilia fight? Who are you telling him?
Gaethje's such a warrior. It would be an amazing fight, between the two of them. There's no question. Paddy Pimblett is such an up-and-coming, personality in the sport. I think from an international viewing point to get the most eyeballs on the fight, I think Paddy Pimblett would be a great opponent for him.
What do you think, Dustin?
Dude, if I'm putting a matchmaker hat on, I'm doing, the lightweight division has always been like heavy at the top. There's always been so many matchups you can make, and it's logjam, guys waiting for title shots. But I would do Gaethje, Topuria. I would do Max Oliveira for the BMF belt. And I got to see Patty win another big one. You know, I don't think he's in the title shot yet. He's got a big name and it would do big numbers, but one more, he's cutting his teeth. He's earning his stripes, but one more big win. To me, I just don't think that Michael Chandler win on the record. Michael's last 5, 6 fights have been going. I don't think that grants you a title shot with the former opponents he beat. If he had a couple other big ones in there, maybe so. But I want to see Patty one more high level fight. Then we can talk about title shot for him.
I go with Dustin on that. I can tell Dustin make a better matchmaker than I would.
I mean, look, if you can
at this weight class, it's easy for me because I have been fighting with all these guys for so many years. When I start talking matchups, it's easy for me to talk about this division.
It's the best division in the sport. It's so fun.
No
and
question.
Yeah, whoever has that job of matchmaking the lightweight division, it's one of the best jobs in the world. But ladies and gentlemen, Dustin Poirier, Bruce Buffer, everybody, partnering with Bud Light, and make sure you follow them in Bud Light to get your chance to go to Madison Square Garden, UFC 322, November 15th. You can submit your PTO request right now at 1-800-BUD-LIGHT through October 30th. Make it good, and you could be heading to the Mecca for a massive, massive pay-per-view event in November. Guys, thank you so much. Congrats on all of this. This is really, really cool.
Thanks very much, Mike. It is very cool. It's quite an experience for me, and I'm sure I can't even imagine what it is like for Dustin. This is my first year. This is his second year or more, so we're getting involved.
Yeah, it's an honor, man. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm excited about next week, the commercial coming out. Everyone's seeing it, and I want to hear some numbers. I want to see how many calls we get at this PTO.